Hey guys, Youthful Yields here. So today we're going to be going over the portfolio for the week. So here is a look at the S&P 500 performance for the last week. Overall, not too bad. I mean, there's definitely some sectors that took some hits, such as consumer staples, most of consumer staples, mostly utilities. There was the whole Tesla Trump shenanigans, so Tesla went down quite a bit. Which one is this? Insurance, I think, or maybe insurance brokers. Um, Berk B, but overall, I would say like the broad market went up, and we can look at the actual S&P 500 or SPY, right? That went up around 1.65%, so that's good. Um, yeah, so let's take a look at each of our different portfolios here. So we have the Webull one, which says we're up about 13 bucks. So we're at 231. Still nothing crazy, but obviously I feel like we're slowly going up. I think the highest we went this week was we'll go over that in a sec, but I think it was probably like close to 245 or something like that, but I could be wrong. The M1 finance side of things, I always click on that for some reason. There it is. We can take a look here at the last week. So 1.5% up here, which is about 200 bucks. And as always, we can sort by the highest to lowest. So highest we had was semiconductors, AMD, and Nvidia leading the way there. Healthcare, we had Eli Lilly kind of carrying the healthcare sector there. And then industrials, we had John Deere and RTX. So yeah. In terms of the opposite side of things, like I said, consumer staples, utilities, looks like real estate also went down a little bit. That's kind of normal. Procter and Gamble down 3.5%, which is quite a bit, but it's actually above our target anyways, so that's okay. And Coca-Cola, unfortunately. Real estate, I think so AMT. And then utilities, Duke Energy, and Southern Company. Looks like next era next era actually went up. I think energy pH went down, but anyways, so far overall not bad, right? Like up 200 bucks, and I think we might have got a couple dividends, yeah. So it looks like we had, and I don't think I went over this one last time, but we had a Visa dividend, we had a Honeywell dividend for $1.78, and then we had a Southern Company dividend for $1.63. So not too bad, honestly. Yeah. So I think let's see, what's today? So it's the 8th. So next Wednesday, I guess I'll go over that next week. We'll be doing the, additional contribution. But, yeah. So moving on to the composer side of things. Let me do the start of last week. So this Friday, was it night? No, wait, hold on. What am I doing? It would have been like the 30th. There we go. So you can see this is the last week, I think, of our. We could technically just do 8th to the 1st. 8th to the 1st. So you can see how that went. Actually, a direct week. So, in the middle of the week, the Simon's KMLM switcher got kind of wrecked. It was down quite a bit, but then it regained a lot on Friday, especially. So that was very nice. What happened was on Thursday, it was actually up 2.5% as well. But then after the tweets, so about at like 12 PST or noon, um, after Elon made his tweet, it went down up, so from up 2%, almost 2.5%, I think, down to 2%. So 4% delta. And yeah, but it looks like it regained quite a bit, and so did a lot of other things on Friday besides Tesla. Obviously, still quite a bit down, but even then, it still rose quite a bit. Um, Overall, we're still a little bit down on that because of how we did our contribution. It kind of wrecked this. It was just bad timing, but I think we're obviously gonna eventually get there. The other two, this one went down quite a or again, which is unfortunate, and then this one's just slightly above. So really, no like major improvements here, but over like the last week, I'd say there have been. So if we look at the actual data here, so starting at this line is when we did the actual, you know, that's when we actually started the week. So taking a look at Composer's P&L here, we are up $125 or around 4% for the week. So, like I said, that Thursday got a kind of a lot down, but then, um, it kind of came back up. So that's good. And then same thing with some of the other ones. M1 Finance. Let's see. Same with on Thursday there. Um, yeah, we peaked at 244.43 on Thursday for our Webull portfolio, but yeah, overall not bad. So up $195 according to this, plus those dividends. Um, I believe. So yeah, not bad. And in terms of the entire week, we are up $305, which is 1.88%, which is above the S&P side of the portfolio, which is pretty nice. That being said, we're still below the S&P 5 or the S&P portfolio by about 7%, and we're still actually negative in terms of the money that we put in by about 3%, but that's slowly closing, I believe. So that's looking good. Only about a $485 deficit there. But I think we can, eventually get there. Eventually. Yeah, so let me look at the overview here. This is mainly for uh, this chart. I wish I could make it bigger without actually having to make the page bigger. We can see how that's done. So our blue is starting to trend upwards, which is nice. But I mean, at the same time, technically, it's the S&P 500 portfolio. So, yeah, I have faith, guys. I think this is just going to take some time. Obviously, this portfolio's not even been around for, or like this entire thing hasn't even been around for an entire year. So, you know, all things considered, I'd say we've learned quite a bit over the course of that, almost year, and we're still somewhat in the game. Yes, we're down, but I think we can get back up decently well. So with the S&P 500, this, which is the majority of our portfolio, is basically a little bit more aggressive version of the S&P 500. So, all things considered on this, it's probably going to be, excuse me, it's probably going to be trending the same. This is pretty much going nowhere as usual. I'm just hoping that one of these weeks it's just gonna explode, or just slowly over time. Who knows? MSTR is still somehow alive. So, yeah. And BTC I think went up. I think it's pretty much at its all-time high, which is nice. But our beat its all-time high on the 23rd or something. So that's nice. But yeah, MSTR doesn't really. Anyways, and in terms of here, this is kind of where I'm banking I'm hoping that we can kind of come on top here. So, like I said before, if you look at the back tests for this, now I know that's not indicative of anything, but this is, this shows that there's about a potential, right, in terms of just the historical data of a 10x return, so that's really good for us. That could potentially mean with this, $2,000 that we put in, that could turn into what, 20 grand or something. And what I was thinking, if something like that happens where we have a really good luck, what we could probably end up doing is, just to be safe, just pull out half of it, right? So if this 2K were to turn into 20, we could then pull it half. We would still be up like 5x, which would be phenomenal still, right? Within a year, obviously. That's what that number is saying. And then that 10x, or that $10,000 that we pulled out, we can just put in to this safe side of the portfolio or something like that, right? Now, obviously, that's not going to compound as much, but the point is we, accept those returns. Because the problem with this portfolio specifically, you'll notice this only goes to 2022, right? So that's not a lot of data. The good news is this OOS start date obviously shows quite a bit of movement up past it. Um, so it's, somewhat of a solid strategy, but obviously a super risky one. The volatility is like off the charts. So yeah, I have some other ones that I'm probably going to be looking into investing. So I have these four that I've been looking at. Um, they seem to be, so all of these I learned. It's kind of, it doesn't. I don't think it tells you. Oh, it does. Okay. So all of these metrics are not technically in line with each other. So if you see 95% here and 30 or 54% here, that doesn't mean they start at the same time. What it means is this is the number that is from the OOS date, which is actually pretty useful, I will say. Um, what this shows us, though, if we look there, like, so cumulative return is completely useless in almost any test, right? Especially for stuff that has started later, like these two. This one actually beats that, but even then, what you want to look at is probably a few numbers. My go-to numbers. Well, first of all, you want to look at the OOS date. The further back, the better, usually. And then obviously you also want to go into these and check on how far they go back, like the maximum amount of history on each of those. Then you want to look obviously at the AR, as well as the most important number in my books is probably the Kalmar ratio, because this takes that AR as well as the max drawdown essentially and combines the two. The Sharpe ratio does this as well, but it's a little bit more prone to uh you know I don't want to say overfitting, because that's not what I mean exactly, but you can get, if your returns are so high, this can actually get pulled up. It's almost like an like, because it deals with the averages. I think so does the Kalmar ratio, but it's a little bit more uh indicative of how well it compares to the drawdown, right? So you can see this one, the highest Kalmar of these four is the second one. And that kind of makes sense, because if you see here, the first one has a max drawdown of 9%. And usually these do actually match pretty closely, but you can see these have the same. But this one's slightly better there. And that's because basically the amount of return we're getting for the amount of drawdown is slightly better. So that also all depends on your risk appetite. Now, hypothetically, you could pull out something like this, which has, or even this. This is what we're running, which has a 300% AR. That's what it's showing here, at least. But the max drawdown could be, well, this is a bad example. I try to pick some safe ones, but so technically this one here is the highest max drawdown. But what that basically just means is, like, if this was higher and obviously your AR was higher, you would just have to be okay with potentially, you know, that would be your highest drawdown, right? Obviously, max drawdown. That doesn't mean it's going to be your average drawdown, but it's going to be your highest that in that period. It could go lower. Another great number to look at for determining your risk appetite is the standard deviation, because this is basically showing you the volatility in that strategy. So the ones with the lowest volatility, such as, you know, this one, it's just the price swings are way less. But over here you can see that one that we are in that has super high performance also has extremely high volatility, which kind of makes sense. Same with a lot of these beta ballers that you'll see. Um, so yeah, you just got to be, you know, it's up to you. Obviously, it just depends on what you're looking for, I'd say. Let me look over here. Watch since. I'd say it depends on what you're looking for. For me, I like to be a little bit safe, but I also like to, you know, also just look at the whole strategy. So, like this is the one I made. It has a 60% or 60 Kalmar ratio. You can see, because it has a max return of 2%, but it has an annualized return of 148%. But also, this is another thing that's important. Remember, I said to look at the OOS date. Because this number starts at the OOS date, well, the OOS date is May 5th, which is literally a month of data. So yes, the annualized return, theoretically, annualized return might be super high. This could be like a cajillion, right? The problem with it is this could go, like, let's say tomorrow, this could drop 50% because of one day. So obviously, it's not really indicative of a long time range, but this one I know is actually somewhat decent just because you can do a max in 2010 and it's pretty decent. It beats the S&P 500. So, um, but overall, like, you know, you just want to be mindful of all of those things. That's why I say realistically, you should try to aim for stuff that's like 2023, 2022. The problem with that, obviously, is the platform was less popular. So that's another thing. The problem with this one that I'm in is it started last year, about a year ago, and it has less data. Like it goes up to 2022. That is like the worst combo. I'm just saying screw it, which I really shouldn't be because obviously we're still down on our money. But that's why I don't think I'm going to be putting any more money into this symphony on the 18th. I think I'm going to be putting in more money into maybe some of these other ones just to get a a bigger picture of um other things, right? I don't know. I still haven't decided, but I feel like the potential is very high with this one, obviously, but it's also very low, right? That's the whole thing with the volatility. And it really just depends on when we get out of the strategy, because that obviously solidifies the gains and losses. So, but overall, yeah, you just got to look at every single bit of information here. You can come up with your own metrics, obviously, using like all of these numbers and try to calculate them yourselves. You know, like you can say, okay, come up with some weighting that takes the Kalmar ratio, the OOS date, which you can do obviously by taking this, uh, basically the number of days since this OOS date, right? So this one be 30 days or whatever. Let's say another one would be like 300 days or 700 days, and then use that in combination with the Kalmar score or ratio and something else or something like that. Just really it just comes down to what you are looking for in your criteria. But everyone's different, obviously. But you can't go wrong with high returns and low drawdown. Such as this one, like this one beats, according to these stats, this one beats my simple QQQ lever, right? Because again, It depends. So what we had 27% with like a 33%. And if we come over here, this is 98% and a 99 or a 9% drawdown. So that's pretty good. That's why I picked it. It's not like the highest AR on this platform, but honestly, even when you get up to these numbers, it's mostly a pipe dream. Right? There's very selected companies. This one also I'm very hesitant of because it has like a cajillion holdings, and I'm not even going to open this because it's going to lag because there is so many different things. I think that's why they called this the Frankenstein's monster bot, but it's still a very good strategy. Obviously, even from the OOS date, you can come over here, 32% annualized return with a 99% or 9.9. I keep saying that drawdown, which beats our simple QQQ. So yeah. Anyways, I gotta get out of here. It's a long video. There's only meaning for it to be 10 minutes, but yeah. I'm looking forward to next week, but we'll see if any other tweets come out or anything like that. Hopefully not. I know that toyed with a lot of people's portfolios, but obviously just keep looking up, keep investing, make it consistent, and yeah, you know, just use this as a learning tool. Invest a small amount of your portfolio into stuff that you are interested in, that you're not, quite too sure about yet. Obviously, do the research before, but um, this is a bit of a hobby for me at least, and yeah. But anyways, guys, as always, I wish you guys a wealthy future.